Okay, we're back, and here it is. We had a couple of minor bleed throughs on the masking tape, which is a good reason why you should keep your masking tape in a plastic bag, because I used old dusty masking tape, and so I had a couple of minor bleed throughs, but nothing real bad. I touched it up, and in the process of touching it up, though, I made more mistakes, which I had to go over, and so there's a couple of touch-up spots, but overall, um, only made about 20 mistakes, and I'm pretty happy with the result. I didn't really think I would be able to pull off the paint job on the box, but it's really not that hard. Um, I'll tell you how I did it. I started off with self-etching primer for the nose cone. I only used that on the nose cone itself. Very light coat of self-etching primer, and then I sealed it with primer sealer after light sanding, of course. And then I used primer sealer on the whole body, the whole tube, and the fins. And the fins got about 6 coats of primer sealer plus sandpaper in between to get rid of all the grain. So that took about a week. honestly, that took about a week. And you can see one of my mess ups here. I don't know why I masked that and then I don't know. It just happened. It's hard to explain. I'm not gonna get into it. But okay, so after you prime it up, and you give it a very light sanding after you've got it all primed. I found that when I was shaping, when I was getting rid of the seam in the middle, you can see it just a little bit right there. When I was getting rid of the seam in the middle, that priming and then refilling over the primer helped a lot, because you could see the low spots a lot more easy when it's a uniform color with the primer. So I primed a couple of times, probably about 3 times there, and filled maybe twice in between the primer coats to bring that up to height. And of course it still shrank down a little bit, but it's okay. It's okay. It's good. And so let's see. So after I did the primer, then we did these are the 3 colors I used, and I used regular Testers Extreme Lacquer, and all 3 of these have like sparkles in them. Not so much this one, but these 2, especially this one. This one's got, this is like black with silver frost in it. It's really cool. This was the one I was talking about frosting with earlier. If you stand back really far, you get a lot of silvery frost. If you get up right on it, 6 inches away, and get it wet, it's almost black with just a little bit of silver. So when I did the nose cone base coat was all this, and I did it wet, and then I came back and did the frost later. But the main coat of the whole thing was this. I used almost this whole can for the main coat, starting from the bottom, going up. And as I went up, these areas I didn't worry about filling too much, but I did fill these real good, all the way up to about right there. When I got to the top, I didn't worry about having a really solid coat. I just let it bleed out, and then the next coat was a slightly darker shade of that. See, we got 2 shades here, and then I did this coat from about here up, and with this coat, you really had to work with misting it. It wasn't so much this coat was just solid, a solid wet coat. With this coat, you had to get real misty with it and just kind of blend it, So I was doing maneuvers like this. I was going, and then just up here, just, and standing back and just letting the paint, congeal on there in a still room. and you know, there would be a cloud of paint there, and it would just, you know, just kind of gather on. And then I did the same thing with the top, with the black frost. You know, I bought in the can of black and just stood back and, you know, from, you know, from all different angles all around it. And so you got to work with it. I had to work with it to really get that nice bleed. And I've got a couple of spots here. I started to clear coat it. That's the key after you're all done, is that you got to clear coat it. So I was starting to clear coat, and I thought I had enough, and it ran out. And when I ran out, it started splattering. So I didn't really get a wet coat. I wanted a wet coat, but I only got enough. I got just enough on there, I think, to preserve the frost. You know, I didn't want to. The frost comes off in your hands. You know, when you're frosting with this glitter stuff, the glitter just comes right off in your hands. And now, as far as doing the silver parts, okay, now this is where the masking comes in. And, you know, the masking tape, you got to use masking tape that's not dusty, people, because otherwise you're going to get runs. It's going to run through your masking tape, and you're going to get little bitty runs. And you see little bitty runs? It's okay from 3 feet away. You know, I had to touch up a couple of them. And like I said, when I went to do the touch-ups, I messed up other spots. So, you know, it wound up being, you know, just a plethora of mistakes. 20 mistakes in a row. I was like, no, it looks so good. Why did you paint again? Why? You know, I found myself just put the paint down, walk away. So, you know, but overall, it turned out pretty good. So, you know, with the silver, you got to get out the masking tape. I started off at the top right here, and I did a ring all the way around it with masking tape, and then I marked that ring with where I was going to put the points. And then I did the same thing down here. I marked straight up from the fin, like 2 inches, and just made a mark. And then I ran tape from that mark down to this mark. And I had to trim it, of course, in the middle, because the tape gets too wide right there. And I did the same thing here, all the way around. And, you know, at the bottom, that's just one piece of tape there. Didn't even trim it. One piece of tape there. Piece of tape there. Piece of tape there. I just took measurements and made sure I made all the measurements the same. I forget what they are now. I just, you know, eyeballed it and said, oh, that looks about great. So I will just make sure they are all uniform. They are all uniform. And that's the key. You know, it doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be uniform. You know. Don't feel too challenged to replicate this paint job. The one on the box is just pure black. But this one is like, ooh. But that's half the fun. It's half the fun. The paint job is half the fun. So I'll go out tomorrow and get another can of clear coat and finish this up. And stay tuned, because I'm going to go down to the flying field here in a few days. And we're going to fly it, and you'll get to see a live flight report. And I hope to see you there. Thanks for coming by, and get out there and build something.